Hello everyone, welcome to Multiclass Championship Round 3 at Red Bull Ring. You are now joining the qualifying as there's 3 minutes and 18 seconds remaining. Hello, my name is Matas. I'm not the usual host, not the usual broadcaster for these events. However, as you may know, most of World Sim Series team has involvement in some real life racing. And we're here from the Baltic, so there's a big event going on in Estonia, and most of the team is right here, either racing or supporting racing in one way or another. So, I'm gonna be your host, your commentator, your broadcaster for today. As we see, Adam Gazzoni just setting the fastest lap in the DPi class. Today we have 5 cars in DPi class and 12 cars in GT3 class. As you may know, the DPi class is much harder to drive at the limit. It's in some ways easier with a lot of downforce, but in many ways it makes it even much harder to reach those final tenths, those final seconds. As we can see now, Hoven is finishing his flying lap. Let's see where he slots in. So he's still second. Last lap was not his best lap. Meanwhile, let's take a look at Polonio, who is sitting in the stationary in the pit lane, already has the best lap of his. And Dmytriiev, very close second in the GT3 class. Only 0.02 of a setting separate the winner, the pole position of the GT3 class from the second position, Dmytriiev. As it stands now, qualifying is still not over, and Aspars is right there behind with 18 thousandths of a second from Polonio. So top 3 of the GT cars are basically identical. 18 thousandths of a second across the finish line is like what, a meter, maybe less than a meter in distance. So if you would imagine them going side by side, they will be really close. Basically no difference whatsoever. But it does make all the difference where you start, as you can ensure a safe and dominant getaway and then control the race throughout. Yuri Lapo is currently running 4th, and we can see also some tire choices for the GT3 cars. Some guys are running on mediums, some guys are running on softs. So it seems that both strategies can work in the qualifying because differences between mediums or softs are basically negligible. And well, Polonio has the best time with mediums, but then the second and the third best times in GT3 class follows by softs. So really, it can be anyone's guess. Oh, I think there was some change. Marijuan has improved on his lap time, but I don't think he overtook anyone for a better position. Qualifying is now the timer of the qualifying has came to an end, so if anyone is now currently on track, he can finish this flying lap and then the qualifying will be over for them. And when everyone's finished like that, then the qualifying is officially over and we can take a look at the final results and have a final starting grid. Let's see, are any of the top leaders in the DPi class still on track? No. Hohen was, but he did not improve. Let's see if Speth improves on his best lap time. Best lap time now is 1 minute 20.461, and his last lap was a 10th. Oh, he did improve very slightly. He did improve very slightly, but he did not improve his starting position. As now we wait for the grid to form. It's gonna be less than 60 seconds until we go to grid. Everyone's now I can see is changing their tires. You can see what tires they are choosing in their setup. It will be interesting to see what tire choices there will be, because in GT3 class, as we saw, some guys were running medium, some soft. So probably mediums are not quite hot enough, don't get hot enough, and softs probably overheat. So for GT3 class, it's probably gonna be mediums or hards. So Kazani starts on softs, as now we are in a grid. And for DPi class, as the DPi has usually a better choice of tires, there can be more choices to be made, especially with the setup, as they have more options in the DPi class setup as well. So we have a Kazani starting first on softs, and followed by Hoven on mediums, Alvarez as well on mediums, Speth on softs, and Malakauskas on mediums. No, Speth has changed to mediums as well, so only Kazani starts on soft, so he will pull away very, very fast from the start, probably. And we have all the GT3 cars starting on mediums, so all lights are on, and here we go. See, everyone seems to have a good start. Someone made a very good start in the GT3 field. Kazani is taking a lead, while our DPi cars go side by side. That's right, with Speth. Let's see who's... Alvarez is challenging Hoven. Hoven is challenging Kazani as they go side by side. Oh, almost 3 wide into the second corner. Everyone seems to be fine, making out alive, as well as GT3 cars following. So Alvarez did not overtake Kazani, but it was very, very close, and Speth got involved as well. Somehow they all made through that very tight corner. It nearly is full lock with these DPi cars. Now the closest fight for the DPi is for the 4th place in the DPi class. And we have Asparza from the GT3 class, very close to the leader, Dmytriiev. If he is less than 4/10 of a second, he should probably get some aero advantage as he go on a straight. He should be able to close that gap even further. But now the gap seems to be stable and even slightly increasing before we go on this light straight. Yeah, it is slightly increasing, but Speth seems to be holding on very closely to Alvarez. Meanwhile, Kazani doesn't seem to have a huge advantage on his softs. This is the point where Kazani has to make a big gap between himself and the second place, as he's probably gonna stop sooner and change into those medium sooner than the other guys. Will probably have to run all a longer first stint and then a bit shorter second stint. But we'll see how this plays out, because these guys will pretty soon start lapping the GT3 cars, because they're so much faster around this quite a short track. I think it is every 8 or 9 laps the DPi car class will be lapping the GT3 class field. It seems a tire choice for Kazani is really not working out. He's not getting away from Alvarez whatsoever. And Speth at the same. Meanwhile, Hoven is not able to keep up with the top 3 in the DPi field, and is being chased very closely by Malakauskas. Malakauskas has to have a good exit from this corner. This is the longest straight in this track, and he seems to have a very good exit, 0.3 seconds and gaining. He will be using the draft here provided, but he isn't gaining that much. So either he is saving... Oh! Hovan made a mistake and Malakauskas is through. Hovan just simply missed his braking point or locked up or something. And he let Malakauskas by without much fight. Let's see if Hovan will attack the next lap. Oh, a lockup from Malakauskas and as well Hovan, they're going wide. I wonder if they're struggling with their front tire temperatures. They're locking up in the front, so it can be the cool conditions in Austria right now. As I remind the viewers that these are the real conditions, so the real temperature, the real wind, and the same cloudiness as it is right now in Austria in the Red Bull Ring. We have the same conditions right here. We only don't simulate rain because the Corsa is still not there with the rain simulation, so we want to keep these races realistic and enjoyable for the drivers. Let's take a look at some GT3 field scraps, as these cars, these touring cars, they provide an even closer racing this. They are not so sensitive to aero, and they can follow much closer than the DPi cars. That being said, DPi cars can follow much more closer than some Formula cars, as we are used to, especially the fans of Formula 1 will know is a struggle of following right behind the other car. And we can see Rahmanian gaining on Lapo, and Lapo doesn't seem to be putting up a fight. Maybe he is thinking something cheeky. Okay, I will leave here on the outside and then crisscross into the next big straight, and now he's gonna leave Rahmanian all the way behind and maybe even vulnerable to Sabas. So then he will not only solve his problem for one lap, but solve his problem for a few laps, as Rahmanian will have to defend from Sabas. As we see right now, he has a slightly compromised line going into this corner, but seems to be having very good exit. Lapo is struggling out of this section. As is this, and now a freeway fight for these GT3 cars. Each GT3 car is very different, but we have a BOP for each car, so they are more or less equal. There are slight differences for each track, but they are mostly in the way how the car behaves. And still, I think the best way for the driver is just to stick to one GT3 car, learn how it behaves, learn its character, and have a good setup for it. And then will be just stable with his lap times. I know your Lapa really likes that Ferrari. He's always driving with a Ferrari. And it seems to be working right now for him as well. Meanwhile, as we're looking at this fight for the in the GT3 class, Alvarez is slightly gaining and slightly losing time to the leader Casoni. I wonder if now 7 minutes passed, the softs and should probably be losing the slight advantage they had against the mediums as they start to degrade very, very fast. Well, probably because maybe Casoni has a very, very low scrub setup, so he's not scrubbing those tires, but even still, his corners are very, very fast and really scrubs those tires in this track, especially in their many corners compared to the straights. And their corners are very, very high speed, so this takes a lot of energy, a lot of downforce on those tires and really loads them up. As we can see, Alvarez getting a better exit into the straight, into the second corner, but yet not quite close enough to have a significant gain from the aero, from the draft. Well, here Alvarez seemed to have gained 2/10 in one corner. I wonder if really now Casoni is struggling with his exits from the very slow speed corners that it is, and where the rear grip is important, and the cars are limited by the rear grips that they have. Much more than the overall grip they have in these high-speed corners. But now we also see in these high-speed corners, Alvarez is gaining even more. So it is probably the softs getting away from Casoni, and I wonder how long can he keep Alvarez behind him. A slide on board with Alvarez in this beautiful setting in the mountains of Austria, Red Bull Ring. seems to have lost a little bit of his advantage through here, taking much wider entry, much better entry into this first corners than Casoni. Yet not gaining that much either. Their last lap was only a 10th faster, so even still, if he can manage a 10th faster lap each lap, he will be gaining on Casoni very, very soon. And we here see 9 minutes into the race, we already see a first GT3 class car being passed. Even though he is 15 seconds behind the next GT3 car, we'll probably see the whole field of DPi cars getting past the whole field of GT3 cars in the next lap or two. So this will be interesting to see, and interesting to see how drivers deal with this traffic and how they can communicate with the GT3 cars, even though none of them communicate verbally. They can communicate with their movements of their car, and how can they read each other and pass each other as safely and as quickly as possible. Alvarez seems to be struggling a little bit through this last section. He's losing here the times that he gains in the previous section, especially here in the compression of the last corner. He lost a 10th and a 2/10 in one corner. That is not such a great performance, but I think with the mediums he is just playing a long game and not trying to do something crazy, not trying to push a lot, and just waiting for Casoni's softs to wear out, and then he will be able to pass him with a big advantage and not losing time, because he knows if he will not be able to pass Casoni in 1 or 2 corners, Speth is going to be right on his tail. It's only 2 seconds behind, so Speth also has all the chances here to capitalize on these two guys fighting. Let's go to a TV camera to watch how these DPi cars will start to negotiate the GT3 car traffic, where you can see Casoni approaching the first GT3 car, going on the outside. Alvarez as well is gonna go on around the outside. They both seem to be doing well with this GT3 traffic. GT3 traffic isn't moving. Oh, and here we can see a big gain by Casoni, as Alvarez seems to be a little bit stuck behind the slower GT3 cars, as now they finally negotiate a situation and let these faster DPi's guys through. Just to remind viewers, GT3 cars do not have to let the DPi's car through, but they simply cannot obstruct the overtake of those. So if the DPi car is not on the inside of the corner, GT3 car has all the right to be there and use that corner, which they did in this last corner. And this game left an advantage of 2 seconds for Casoni because Alvarez got a little bit stuck. And now there's more cars to follow. And now Casoni seems to be struggled a little bit in the exit of the second corner. As well, there's 2 more cars. Oh, right on the apex. It's a very bad place to catch a GT3 car, since they saw Casoni getting on the brakes on the apex. He lost half a second right there. And now into a very fast section of the track in the third sector. Alvarez seems to be negotiating well as Speth. Speth has gained the most of all of these guys. Let's ride on board and see how he does it. You can see approaching at very high speed, going on the inside, has all the rise for this corner. Alvarez going slightly wide and has a compromised exit because he was overtaking the Audi on the outside. And now Speth is only 1 second behind Alvarez and gaining even more, so he's probably very happy with his performance in this round of GT3 overtakes. I wonder if there's any more GT3 cars left to overtake. Yes, there are. There must be a few left. It's good that there's only 17 cars on this track. This track already feels kinda crowded with 17 cars on it, and it can be much more. Casoni flashing his headlights has a very, very, very confident move on the inside, a very good communication, and yeah, he seems to be negotiating with traffic much better than Speth. Oh, what happened to Alvarez? Alvarez has lost out 13 seconds, he must have spun or something. And now Hoven is right behind him as well, followed by Malakauskas. Oh, this just got much more interesting. I wonder what happened to Alvarez. There must be something involving a GT3 car, because he cannot lose 14 seconds by himself. Well, anything can happen in these races and in these much faster DPi cars. See, it doesn't seem to be having much damage on the car. Steering wheel is straight, so his suspension is okay. Maybe he just had to take some evasive action to avoid the incident, and then got stuck in the gravel or something and lost out 14 seconds. It's a lot, but it still can be regained in this race. And now Speth seems to have cleared the GT3 traffic as well as Casoni. So Alvarez is just about to pass the last of the GT3 traffic with Malakauskas very, very close to the end of Hoven, as they're both passing the GT3 traffic. Going on the inside, I wonder if that Merc will see them. Yes, he left some space. Very nice driving by these guys. Didn't gain from this situation, but didn't lost out much as well. It's strange how Casoni's now soft seem to be performing well. It's probably, there's not much difference in lap time at all with Speth and Casoni. It's much more down to how well the traffic can be managed and where they meet the GT3 cars that will be left. And Malakauskas again is right on the tail of Hoven. Let's stick with these guys and see if there's gonna be any overtakes in this lap. Oh, there's one more GT3 car to overtake. It's a very bad place to overtake. It's gonna be open up a wide door for Malakauskas, which is using this opportunity, but didn't quite got the crisscross that he wanted. Had to let off, and it now seems not to be catching Hoven at all. This probably is because Malakauskas has a much more higher downforce setup. It doesn't seem to be catching Hoven, even though he had a much better exit and a draft from Hoven. So this must be in the setup wise, but we'll see probably through here. Malakauskas is gonna be much more confident on these high speed corners, on these large braking zones than Hoven, but he cannot do anything about it because, well, there's a car in front. He cannot just overtake around the outside. It's not such a huge difference in the downforce levels that we can see Hoven going wide here, and Malakauskas is really easily getting on the inside. So these two guys, this explains a lot. They're running a very, very different setups. The Hoven is probably on a low downforce and Malakauskas is on a high downforce. So Malakauskas is really fast through this section, but he cannot overtake Hoven because he's right in his way. And as he go, oh, he can finally use his high aero advantage, and now he's still not overtaking Hoven. And now as they go into inside, we can see just Hoven pulling a gap from Malakauskas as if he would have a DRS or something. That's the difference between these setups and the difference that the setup can make. They're probably gonna be passing the leader of the GT3 class right about now. Yes, this is a leader, Dmytriiev, in the GT3 class, which is leading by 2.7 seconds from Esparza. And there's already 7.2 second gap from Polonio. They were much closer in qualifying. Wonder if something happened to Polonio. Was there any contacts? This Lamborghini Huracan GT3 car seems to be looking okay. And Martínez is very close behind. We might see a fight between these two guys. But let's get back to the fight, the eternal fight, it seems, between Malakauskas and Hoven, where Malakauskas is faster here in the last section, catches up to Hoven, and then cannot do anything about it in the straights. As you can see, 2/10 in one corner, like it's nothing, but no overtakes since. And still, he'll be scrubbing his tires a lot and trying to stay as close, and because the closer you are, the more sketchy the driving becomes. It's not so smooth and it's not so good for the tires. You cannot really see where you're going, especially if you get closer, so you have to react more. and cannot predict that much. Oh, a very wide exit. I wonder, he was probably scraping that sausage curb on his bottom, and yeah, he lost out still a little bit, and now he's not catching Malakauskas in the straight either. Meanwhile, Martínez is edging closer and closer to Polonio and might go for a move soon in a lap or two for the podium position, the third position in the GT3 class. Meanwhile, while we're waiting for that, let's look at the scrap between Neue Sabas, Lampert and Svedos as you go side by side out of the first corner, and they're gonna be going side by side, and now Sabas has a disadvantage going into this right-hander. He's on the left, unless he's gonna be able to crisscross, but he seems to be going for just a better exit. And yes, he got a much better exit. Lampert has probably spun his wheels. I wonder what traction control setting he's using, because he seems he's just like bogged down on the hill where you need that traction in the first gear. Or it also can be a diff setting. Maybe he's just running a more open diff and his inside wheel simply did not grip up and the traction control just killed the power. He lost a lot. He lost 8/10 in one exit of the corner, so it was a great strategy by Sabas to go around that outside and have that better, wider line to have a better exit. And now he's pretty confident on his exit. Let's take a look at the fight between the BMW of Rahmanian and the Mercedes of Marijuan. Funny enough, Marijuan is running a safety car livery, but his car has some slight damage, so it's not such a safe car as he would like it to be. Probably he's just doing it for the fun, for the laughs, and well, this is some clever thinking of the livery choice. As we see Rahmanian just falling back a little bit out of this very tricky, slow exit of the second corner. Getting much closer through the apex. And getting a better exit as well. I wonder how different the setups for the GT3 cars are as well, because Rahmanian seems to be doing a little bit better here through this third section where the downforce is needed, but cannot overtake Marijuan in the second corner where the low downforce setup is needed to be able to pull a gap in the straight. Let's go back to a fight between Lampert and Sabas, and Lampert is again right on the end of Sabas. And as well, here we have that is Kazoni passing these two guys that are also fighting. Yes, that is Kazoni passing these guys. He's leader of the DPi class, and Speth is passing them as well. And he is much closer than it was 10 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago he was about 2 seconds away, now he's a half a second away. So we'll see how these guys do, as they're probably gonna have to negotiate some more GT3 traffic. About in the next GT3 car is about 15 seconds away, as Lampert is trying Sabas' trick, and he's learned from him that there's a lot of grip on the exit, and so you can use a better exit speed to gain an advantage in the straight, but it's not enough. And Sabas now again has a better hand, as he's gonna go on the inside of this corner and probably... Oh, there's a little bit more contact that we would like to see, but they're still side by side, and they're gonna go side by side into a left-hander, which is gonna be an advantage. Oh, there was a contact. Sabas barely saves his car, and it's an advantage for the left car, which is Lampert, and they were able to finally battle it out with not too much consequences. There was a little bit of contact, but nothing too serious. Both cars stayed on track, and Lampert is away. We'll see if Sabas can attack him back and counter-attack him back in the next few laps. As let's ride on board with Speth, as it's gonna be closing soon through some GT3 traffic, as we can see now ahead. There is some GT3 cars. Seems to be going well. Neither driving, losing or gaining much time. These both guys are really fast and experienced with GT3 cars. I wonder when the stops are gonna start. Oh, there's a bunch of GT3 cars right in front. 3 cars. This will be interesting to see. Let's ride on board with Speth. Oh, this is just multiclass racing perfection as you slice and dice between the GT3 cars to have a slight advantage, and now he's gonna be patient as this car has a corner and he lost out a few tenths through here, and he's gonna get those, gonna have to gain those back on track with his speed. As it seems he's doing it well. The soft tires must be losing out to medium tires right now on the grip levels. They must be worn out more. Oh, okay. Speaking of soft tires, Homan on soft tires is now 50 seconds behind Malakauskas. They were right close together. I wonder what happened to those guys, to Homan. Maybe he contacted some GT3 car, or maybe he was just overheat and he could not control his car. Oh, that was very close. Very close. That GT3 car closed in the gap to the apex. Was, I would say, still legal, but very kind of sketchy and dangerous for both cars to close that inside of the corner right like that. Kazani has spun. I think Kazani has spun, and now he's, yeah, he is behind, and he will lose out even more, but he will not be overtaken by Alvarez. That's 8 seconds. He probably had a spin going out of that corner. Now he has to get by these guys once again. That was not on his plan. As we now see, the guys with the soft tires in DPi class starting to struggle. It can be a combination, just having to react to a GT3 car that did something that you did not expect, and you make a move that is a little bit too quick for these cars, and they lose traction, and on the overheated, unworn softs, it's probably very hard to control and gain it back. So he lost out 10 seconds in this lap. It was 10 seconds slower than Speth, and Speth, I think, is now very happy with where he sits. He's in first position with medium tires. I think medium tires seem to be holding on well. As we can see here, a battle within a battle. Marijuan trying to overtake Abdelhabi as he try to let by his DPi cars safely. Gonna go around the outside. It's an interesting choice. It's not much opportunity here to do, but it's gonna be a big opportunity for Rahmanian, who is right now right on his tail. Goes a bit wide, got on the gravel, but controlled the car, still stayed on the circuit. Marijuan is fighting really heavily with Abdelhadi, and he's not doing any favors for himself because Rahmanian is right there behind him. And he's gonna be looking to capitalize on these two guys fighting. As you can see now, where Marijuan has to go inside to defend. And now it's gonna be very compromised line. Wow, that's a brilliant move by Rahmanian. He overtakes 2 cars at once as Marijuan or Abdelhadi pits. Not sure which one is that. Yes, Abdelhadi pits. So that's a brilliant move by Rahmanian, where he overtook 2 cars, even though one was pitting. But still, he saw a great opportunity to go around the outside. And that was a brilliant move. A lot of confidence needed to do that. As we're now probably going to be seeing is a GT3 car starting to go into a pit lane. And Dmytriiev finds himself under a lot of pressure from Esparza. As he's gonna go close to the pit stop window. Now I wonder who's gonna pit first. If Esparza is faster, he might want to pit now and overtake Dmytriiev on the track later on. Not to overtake Dmytriiev on the track later on, he does that. So that's a smart move by Esparza. And now Dmytriiev should respond with the same in the next lap. And for Esparza, it's going to be critical to have a good pit stop and have a good exit from the pit lane. Why he did not stop? That was a penalty. So he had a drive-through penalty. Wow, it's a big situation. He lost 14 seconds, 15 seconds in the pit lane. And I thought he was pitting, but he just had a penalty from something. And he had to pit and serve the drive-through. So it was not actually pitting for the race. As we see Martínez and Polonio and they're going very, very closely, as well as Esparza. Just right there in front. And another DPi car overtaking them. Alvarez is staying quite close to Cazzoni, but no overtakes yet. But he is catching him, as well. Cazzoni had the spin. Alvarez had the spin as well, so they're gonna be fighting once again. Let's see if Dmytriiev pits this lap or not. No, he is still not pitting this lap, so he is not pitting at the midpoint, so maybe he will be pitting as later on. It is enough to only pit for fuel. You don't have to change the tires if you don't want to. As now Esparza comes in, well, hopefully for a planned pit stop. Yes, he is moving over. As well as Martínez is also pitting. And Yurilapa as well. So we are seeing these guys pit, and because they're pitting now, they're probably gonna be changing those tires and adding a little bit more fuel. Dmytriiev is in the last sector, and about we'll see if he pits or not. Marijuan is on track, still battling with Rahmanian, but Rahmanian manages to save his lead. Oh, there was a very late braking by Marijuan. I think he realizes that it's his mistake and he does not overtake Rahmanian, even though he could easily do that. A nice gesture by letting him go in front again. It's probably just a simple mistake by Marijuan. Like I said, it's difficult to see where to brake, and maybe the car in front blocks your braking zone or has a slightly sooner braking zone. And it is very difficult to see, to judge the accurate braking zone and braking place. And Dmytriiev, the leader of the GT3 class, pits now as well. Someone else is in the pits. That's Cazzoni in the pits. We'll see if he's gonna be staying on the soft or changing to the medium tires. I think it might be smart to change into the mediums. But no, he's staying on softs probably due to his setup. Maybe his setup will not heat up those mediums. And now he's away, and he is one of the first DPi class cars to pit. And he's gonna be just in front of Hoven. Meanwhile, Dmytriiev leaves the pit lane. It's gonna take a lap for the telemetry to figure out who is in front of who. So next lap we'll see, but I think the stop went well and Dmytriiev should be in front of Polonio. So Cazzoni is now on a fresh soft on a rubber tin track. We'll probably see some good lap times. Maybe now, maybe when the fuel load is a little bit less, but the softs are still healthy and not worn out. Yuri Lapo is closely following Rachmanian. 0.3 seconds behind, so it's just a 1 or 2 mistakes from Rachmanian. He will be able to take that position. Meanwhile, Rachmanian is following Abdelhadi, which is a little bit more further ahead, 0.7 seconds. It's probably gonna be a... Oh! Rachmanian makes a mistake, but it's not a good place to overtake, but a very good place to lose a lot of time to the car in front, as both of these cars do. And Abdelhadi is now 1.5 seconds ahead of these guys, where Lapo takes the inside of the corner, but does not capitalize on that. Rachmanian, we see him today being very brave on the outside of that second to last corner. He did some overtakes. What is happening again with a drive-through penalty? Dmytriiev in the pit lane again. He's again in the pit lane, and it is. I wonder if it is a stop and go. They're not finding their own grid boxes. It seems now finally Dmytriiev has found his pit box. That is very strange. He's the leader of the GT3 class, and now he goes. This was a very short pit stop as it is in the stationary time. It could have not been the makes a contact with the wall. Maybe something's wrong. Maybe he has some problems with his steering wheel or brakes or something, because maybe he has some damage as well. It's a big change in the GT3 field. The car doesn't seem to be damaged that much. Steering wheel is straight. You can see a little, yes, there's a little bit of bent bonnet of this Mercedes, but it's nothing too bad. But Dmitry has lost out, and he is now actually third in the GT3 class. The telemetry here you can see on screen is not that great. It hasn't not yet figured out who is where after the pit stops, as he gets overtaken with a DPi car, and another DPi car following closely behind. It is much scarier to be a GT3 car, and then you're almost at the mercy of the DPi car for you to be overtaken safely. Also, there's a lot you can do. See if Dmitry pits again. He is pitting again. He's pitting again. Is it probably doesn't know how to serve maybe a penalty? I'm not sure. Maybe we'll see what happens here as he comes in. Is he gonna go again to this pit box, or he is gonna stop just somewhere here? Because if you want to serve a stop and go penalty, you cannot stop on your pit box. You need to stop somewhere else where the real penalty says you can stop, and then serves a stop and go penalty there. So we see him again stationary in the pit lane, and this is the third consecutive lap. He is in the pit lane, and another car has just left the pit lane as well. And now again, leaving. Something's not really right here. And yeah, I'm wondering why these guys are just stopping in the pit lane. It cannot be planned stops. It's impossible to be planned stops. There must be some sort of serving of the penalty as well. Some viewers might not know. There is a real penalty system. So if you have, if you cut the track 3 times, and it's a smart system, so it knows where you gain the advantage if you cut the track. And if you cut the track 3 times, the 4th time, you're gonna get a drive-through penalty. And so on. So maybe these guys are taking a little bit more than they need from the track and get those penalties, and need to be serving those penalties. And maybe they're failing to serve those penalties correctly. So Polonio is the de facto leader of this race in the GT3 class. And he's followed by Marijuan, which is 10 seconds behind, and Martínez, who is 26 seconds behind. It's a massive gap in the GT3 class, which then again tightens in the midfield. You see Abdelhadi, 6 seconds behind Martínez. Lapo. Is that Dmytriiev again in the pit box? This is not right. It's probably some sort of a mistake, some sort of a misunderstanding. It's really sad to see him trying to pit and serve that penalty probably or something, but it's just not working. And he's just losing and losing his laps in his fight for the championship. Dmytriiev is currently, let's see, he is the leader of the championship. So he will be losing out a lot in this race. Well, one race is not counted, so there are 6 races and only 5 races are being counted towards the overall standing. So you can have some misunderstanding, you can have some really bad race where you had some bad luck or technical failure, and that race will not be counted towards the overall championship standings. But it's only one race, so yeah, you really don't want to have that one race like that. Let's ride on board with a Ferrari of Yuri Lapo a little bit. He's currently now 5th in the GT3 class. Chasing a little bit from Telhadi. Who has just been overtaken with the GT3 class. We can see his green headlights, very distinguishable trait of his skin. Yuri Lapo is being overtaken by another DPi class car. And that was Alvarez. And Alvarez actually overtook Cazzoni on the pit stop because he is now ahead and still running a medium. So a medium really seems to be the tire of choice for the DPi cars around here. I bet they're struggling to get those mediums up to temperature, especially the fronts, but it seems to be working out more than the softs. You can see he's quite tight, but everything is tidy. That was Abdelhadi, as you can see again from the green glow from those lights. Very similar glow to the shift lights of the steering wheel of Alvarez. I just noticed it's a single car of GT3 class that's running soft in this race. I wonder if it is by accident or not. But Marijuan is running on softs. And he was previously running on mediums as every single ever GT3 car. As well as Polonio, as well he's on softs. And he is exiting the pit lane, so maybe he had a pit stop. Maybe he just changed to softs. That's not my plan. Pit stops, 2 pit stops are really not a good strategy. You're gonna be losing a lot of time. And even still, he would be running softs in each of those stints. So maybe he had a penalty. But if you have a drive-through penalty and you go for a pit stop while that in the drive-through penalty, that penalty will not be counted as served. So I wonder if Bologna will have to get back into that pit lane and serve a drive-through penalty without stopping, like it should be done properly. We'll see him soon. With a few corners left before is a pit entry, and he's being overtaken by a DPi car. It's probably Cazzoni. Yes, it is. As he speeds away, as well on softs. Let's stay with Bologna and see if he comes into pit lane. It's a very weird place now. No, he's not coming into pit. I was saying it's a weird place to have a planned stop like that. but he is still somehow. No, he's not, sorry. He is now in the second place of a GT3 class. First place belongs to Martínez, and the third place to Abdelhadi. I think Abdelhadi will be very happy with the result here. He managed to climb up a little bit in the race. We see here Marijuan on softs, closing in on Lapa. His soft will probably be working well here. Has quite a good backseat, but car gets away a little bit from him. And there is a car gonna be on the inside, always at corner. As well for your lap, and he's gonna follow. That's a quite interesting situation, but they both navigated well. Your Lapo left some space when Marianne decided not to go for it. It's not a smart move to make here. You don't want to be on the inside before this left-hander because you're just gonna be losing out that position immediately and losing time as well. Lapo seems to be struggling a little bit with understeer through these corners. I wonder if now, when the temperatures got cooler in the second stint, maybe soft suddenly became a tire to go, because Marijuan is really going well with these softs. But not quite good to capitalize on the overtake. He needs to have a good exit from this first corner, have a good wide open into the first corner, as well as Europe. I guess a little bit distracted by Yuri Lapo controlling his car and losing a little bit of control, and then stepping on brakes, and Marijuan did the same. And you don't want to really step on the brakes in the mid corner with these race cars, because the rear is gonna step out, as it did. Now he has to gain back those 0.7 tenths again, but I think he's not gonna be long until he does that. His last lap was 7 tenths faster than Yolapos, was only a lap or two. But he's not the fastest car around here in the GTP class, but second fastest, and the fastest car currently is also on softs. So we can see here probably the real weather application as it gets colder and colder as we go further into the night in Austria. The temperature is dropping more and more, and maybe suddenly softs don't overheat that much, and they're a viable choice. So Martínez is right here in front, and Polonio is really close on his back. It's gaining and gaining. 1.5 seconds left to gain, 1.7 seconds, maybe a little bit of a mistake there. Going into that corner, it's that first corner. But these both guys on softs are really fast. Oh, and now your Lapa responds as well with 130.4. So it is still no clear strategy win. Which one you want to use, a soft or a medium, it probably just depends on the car, on your driving style, on your aggressiveness, on your setup aggressiveness. It seems both tires are working well, and it's quite interesting to see here as Polonio drops back even a little bit more. Meanwhile, Marijuan gains a little bit more on Abdelhadi. This is a fight for the final place on the podium with 12 minutes to go. It's not that much time left. I still want to save those tires a little bit, but you probably want to make the moves done pretty quickly because you might run out of time. And your Lapa makes a mistake. He's gonna be very slow going on the outside, but Marianne doesn't seem confident. That was another mistake, another understeer from Yuri Lapo, and he lost out that position by just going wide into a gravel. It's a little bit of a shame, but not too bad. He is still fourth in GT3 class, and still, while some mistakes can happen, as we saw, by himself, no one is immune to mistakes. Especially now, with 50 minutes into the race, maybe drivers are getting a little bit tired. They might not feel it, but their response times are getting slower, so maybe they start to lose concentration a little bit. It is quite difficult to drive in the dark. This track has very little lights. Let's look on Polonio as he is near the gap to Martínez. 2.9 seconds with 11 minutes and 11 seconds to go. This is a fight for, this is a to-be fight for the winner of the GT3 class, and we'll see who's gonna be taking away the most points today. Currently, it seems to be Polonio because he is gaining a lot, and if his softs will hold and he will be able to overtake, I'm not sure if Martínez can respond and overtake him back, maybe at the very ending of it. But now seems Polonio to be much faster through here, and he was 4 tenths faster in the last lap. We'll see how much faster he is this lap. As they're about to cross the finish line now. And that's a best lap from Polonio. 1 minute 30.2, his best personal lap. And he is again 0.7 seconds faster than Martínez and right on his tail, and he will be able to use that toe, and he's using that very big power of Lamborghini V10. He's very late on brakes, very confident, and that's a brilliant move being made even before the corner, just on the braking zone. Seems Polonio softs is really, really advantageous here because probably Martínez mediums will be a little bit cooler in the front, and he will not be having that braking performance as he would like to have here to be able to defend. He was perfectly positioned on the inside, but Polonio just chose the outside, braked late, but not too late. He made the apex. I'm really surprised he made the apex because if you brake that late to overtake and you're planning to overtake around the outside, you want to brake a little bit later than usual because you don't want to make that apex because there's going to be a car there. But he was so good on the brakes that he just overtook Martínez, and now he's already a second ahead. Martínez seems to be struggling a lot, 1.4 seconds ahead. He is not performing as well, I think, as he would like to. I wonder if it is a little bit of a problem with his car, just a little bit of mistake, maybe some tiredness from this race. It is an hour race, so it is quite intense on the drivers. It's not too bad as it is in bigger endurance events where you might have 2 or 3 hour stints, but still the fatigue can kick in and you're gonna start making mistakes. But Martínez here is gaining on Polonio, so maybe the setups are different a little bit. He is faster here through the first sector, but he just lost in the last lap 1.4 seconds in the third sector, which is a high downforce sector where you need that downforce to be able to negotiate those fast corners very well. So this is still not a done deal. I thought Polonio is just gonna be able to drive away from Martínez, but it doesn't seem to be the case. We'll see how the gap changes now as we enter the third sector with these fast looping corners. Let's see. Right on board Martínez, and we'll see if his car is understeering. Yes, there seems to be a slight understeer, but not too bad. But he is losing a little bit of time through here. He lost a 10th. So not too bad, but we'll see if he will be able to catch Polonio again. Well, he's probably gonna be hoping for those softs to start wearing out. And that might be his strategy here, to just stay as close as possible and then just hope for those softs to wear out on Polonio car. Let's take a look on Alvarez on board. With 7 minutes and 7 seconds to go, he is 2.6 seconds behind, 0.5 seconds behind, 2.4 seconds behind Speth. So he is closing a little bit. His last lap was 5 tenths, almost 5 tenths faster, half a second faster than Speth. So if he continues that, he needs 5 laps to catch him, and he does not have that luxury. But what he does have is hope, because there's gonna be GT3 cars there, and maybe they're gonna be in a bad position for Speth, and he's gonna be slow. he's gonna be forced to slow down. Of course, the same can happen to Alvarez. Not with this guy, he's in a very good position. Does not obstruct his corner speed whatsoever. One more GT3 car in front at McLaren, just appearing out of darkness with very shaded rear lights and a very bright green lights in front. That's Abdelhabi's third position in GT3 class. So with this lap, Alvarez did not gain anything on Speth. It's probably going to be very similar lap times. Yeah, so Speth seems to have picked up the pace and he's going to probably be maintaining that gap, knowing that if he stays 2 seconds in front, doesn't risk too much, he will be winner of this race. He just now passed one GT3 car. One more GT3 car in front. This is going to be Polonio, who's a class leader. Let's take a look at how it looks to be overtaken with the DP car from on board. Here he goes. And soon he's going to be overtaken by another GT3 car behind. There's a difference here in these high-speed corners are really big between GT3 and DPi cars. You have much more downforce, as you can see him catching really quickly. And now it's going to be which way he's going to go. Inside, outside, inside. Goes inside, a little bit of a compromised corner entry for Alvarez, and it reflects into time with 2.8 seconds, gap increasing by 0.4 seconds to Speth, and Speth is probably being very happy right now. He sees his gap increasing with the time to race decreasing with 4 minutes left. So there's gonna be 3 laps to go. We'll see. As the gap for the GT3 class first and second position is also increasing, so Martínez is not being able to match those laps being put in by Polonio on softs. It seems to be a very interesting race with how mediums and softs both are performing very similarly. You would expect some tire to be better in the beginning or the end of the stint, but it seems that soft is just better now in the beginning and the end of the stint, and it seems to be holding up nicely. Marijuan is catching Abdelhabi a little bit. 1.3 seconds he was last lap. 0.8 seconds faster. I wonder if there's any GT3 cars have to do anything to do with that. He's gonna be overtaken as well soon by a DPi car. I think that is Malakauskas. Doesn't lose much time here. Very nice place to be overtaken for both of the drivers, for both of the class, and now the DPi is a little bit stuck. That is Hoven. He's a little bit stuck behind Kazoni, but he's an easy overtake around the outside there. But Marijuan is again faster here. He gained a little bit of time. Probably gonna be the fight to watch, because this was the final step of the podium of the GT3 class. One guy's on soft, one guy's on medium. And it seems now the softs are working better because he gained another 3/10. So it will be interesting to see how this pans out. Let's take a look where Speth is. So he's in the final sector of the lap. Let's see how he's so smooth on the inputs. This is what makes a great driver fast. They are able to drive on the limit, but as well at the same time be so smooth on all the inputs, and this makes the car perform just so well. So the last lap was 1 minute 20. He's gonna cross the finish line soon. So there's gonna be 2 more laps left in this race, and 2 more laps left for Marijuan to overtake Abdelhabi. 0.4 seconds behind. It is quite close. It is definitely doable, but it will depend on how good Abdelhabi depends and how well Marijuan can set up the overtake. This track, there's a few good overtake opportunities into the second corner and into the third corner. These are the best, and Abdelhabi seems to be struggling with those mediums. Marijuan is really close here, but gets a really poor exit, and he really, it's not a good place to have a bad exit, because you have to have a good exit out of this corner if you want to be doing that overtake. Gets a little gift from the DPi car because he compromised the entry into that corner of Abdelhabi. Doesn't seem to be catching him that much. Gaining a little bit now. It's gonna have to go defensive. As he tries to go around the outside, we see this move work out well. He has now good traction out of that curb, out of that wider line, and they both go now side by side, as well as being overtaken by a DPi car into that third corner, but it's gonna be a corner which is advantageous for Abdelhabi, as Marijuan is able to brake that much later. We see this again with the drivers who chose the soft tires, they're able to brake much later than the guys with mediums, and now he's overtaken Abdelhabi for the final step on the podium, the third position, with 15 seconds left on the clock. And we'll see, Speth is already started his final lap. So this will be the final lap, and Abdelhabi doesn't seem to be able to challenge Marijuan right away, and you want to stay in his toe if you want to challenge. This is the last lap for these guys. Not this last lap, one more lap as they cross the finish line now. But yes, Abdelhabi is falling behind, so it's a great race, a great overtake by Marijuan. Great choice to use the softs in this final leg of the race. In the second stint of this race. So Speth is about to finish. It's 2 corners left, one more GT3 car to overtake. Alvarez seems to be much closer. Speth really lost a second out of with that corner, with that GT3 car, but it doesn't matter because he's exiting the final turn, and there's nothing to stop him now from winning the third round of Multiclass Championship. And you see him is really happy with his performance, as well as Alvarez. He comes in second, and now quite a further way behind Gazzoni. He was a driver to choose as softs for both of the stints. Had a spin in the first race. Not sure if it was his mistake or maybe some involvement from the GT3 traffic. Probably not that happy with his result, but he's still third. He started first, so could have been better, but it is what it is. Hoven is very slowly crossing. We see out of fuel. Might be. There's no reason to cross that slowly. He might be out of fuel, so that's very lucky ending for him not to be collected by Malakauskas, which is right there. As we see here, Polonio wins the GT3 class with his smart choice of soft tires for the second stint. Martínez comes in second, Marijuan third, and Abdelhabi, who probably had some incidents or off track here because he's 9 seconds behind, comes in fourth. Very slower, maybe he's just saving a little bit of fuel. Followed by Lapo, and then Schwelles is about to cross that finish line in his BMW. We saw some good fighting here from these midfield guys. Not too many contacts, as they were respectful, but yet still aggressive, provided some good viewing experience, I hope. Lampert is about to cross the finish line, and then will be followed by Sabas and Glezer. As well, there was some sort of confusion from Dmytriiev. He is the leader of the championship, but he failed to finish the race. He probably was trying to serve a penalty, but he could not serve it correctly. The system would have probably just be giving the penalty again and again. But it's still not a championship ending result. His result will simply not be counted from probably this race, because it's gonna be hopefully the worst race of the championship. So he still has all the championship hopes that he wants to have, and not gonna be losing out that much. Thank you for joining us today, this evening, this cold evening in Austria mountains, and hopefully not a cold evening from where you're watching. the next race of this Multiclass Championship is gonna be in 2 weeks, and in the next week there's gonna be a final round of Ring Freaks Championship with BMW E30 M3 GT DTM cars, which is a Group A, I think it's officially called, and it's gonna be really interesting to see how drivers get along with those cars, which are very tail happen, but very fun to drive when you get it right. So good night, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the next race next Thursday in the Ring Freaks Championship.